What's up, guys? It's non-horror review time. Every now and then I like to cover movies that are not horror. This happens to be, I think, one of my favorite non-horror movies. It is Tom Hanks in Castaway. Let's do it.
I always knew you were alive. I knew it. But everybody said I had to stop saying that I hadn't let you go. I love you. You're the love of my life.
I love you too, Kelly. More than you'll ever know.
Castaway stars Tom Hanks, Hellen Hunt, and is directed by Robert Zemekis. What's up, guys? It's patron request review time. This one is for Bronson Wright Wolf. He has a monthly review schedule for me that I've been doing. If you are of a certain tier on Patreon or even channel member, then you can get a review in your honor. I am so looking forward to getting into Castaway. This is a movie, I remember when it first came out, it was kind of an event film because just having an actor looking like two different, sizes, I guess, because he was skinny during the island portions of the movie, for a good portion, and then he was more portly at the beginning of the movie. And I really, really love Castaway. It elicits so many emotions. It's heartwarming. It's funny at times because of Tom Hanks and his just natural comedic timing. But it's not a comedy at all. This is a movie that can force you to look within yourself. And how much can you take? The will to survive, right? Because I think we've all hit rock bottom at one point or another, and can we rise above that and come out of it? And that is kind of explored in this movie. So anyway, let's give you a quick plot synopsis. Tom Hanks plays Chuck Nolan. He works for FedEx. He is a very passionate worker. You get inspired by looking at his work ethic, and we can all go to a job and not really care for one reason or another. Could be pay, could be you just don't like the job, but you get the feeling that Chuck, it's not really about the money. It's more about he just is a really passionate, motivated worker. He takes passion in whatever he does, and he seems like a very happy guy. He works for FedEx. You would swear that FedEx was being paid to be in this, or they were paying the production for this movie. But no, there was no promotional tie-in with FedEx in this movie. The idea came from Tom Hanks. He actually was thinking like FedEx, they go back and forth and back and forth. What happens if a plane actually goes down and you got this guy who gets deserted on this island and nobody can find him? And back in 2000, that's more believable because, yeah, the internet was around, but we didn't have social media and all that stuff, and cell phones weren't a big thing back then. Yes, I think you had flip phones back in 2000. Did you? I can't even remember. Different times than now. But also, even today, if somebody got stranded on an island with no infrastructure whatsoever, they didn't have a beeper or a phone or anything like that, maybe it could still happen today. But Chuck has this girlfriend, Kelly, played by Hellen Hunt. They are extremely serious. They are really close to tying the knot. As a matter of fact, right before he leaves, he gives her a ring. He doesn't propose to her, but he tells her to just hold on to it, and maybe when he gets back, then they can discuss the present that he gives her. And she gives him a present because this takes place at the Christmas holiday, and she gives him a present that's just a watch. He flips it open. It's like a family heirloom, but it's a picture of her, and that really factors into the movie later. So of course there is this tragic accident, and everybody on the plane dies except for Chuck. And that scene where you pretty much see them just going about their normal business on a plane. Chuck's got his shoes off, feet up, and then he goes to the bathroom, and then all of a sudden, because of some major turbulence, they get into a plane crash. And it feels very real. The way Robert Zemekis directed this scene, and watching the actors, especially Tom Hanks, react to this, and I don't know if there was some stunt work there from a stuntman, but wow, if Tom Hanks was actually in that scene, and it looks like he is, then he earned his money that day for sure. But eventually he ends up, the only survivor. He's on an island. He's stranded. He can't get out of there. And to make matters worse, he's got a bad toothache. The reason the toothache is mentioned is because when, we all have the luxury of everything at our disposal. Even if you're poor in the United States, you still have shelter. You still have water. You can still get food if you want it. Even if you're homeless, you can probably get free health care in some way or another. But he has none of that. And in this moment, he's like, I would do anything to be able to have a dentist, to get rid of this pain. And, that's the last thing I want to go to personally as a dentist. I hate going to the dentist. Yes, I do it. I value my teeth, and it's a luxury. But, it's painful. I don't like doing it. So, but he would do anything to be able to go to a dentist. I like that one of the many themes of this movie is just valuing what you have that you might not consider. And also, this is truly a love story. The connection, the relationship between Kelly and Chuck. They do such a great job building their connection with each other. And you buy it. You feel like these two characters are actually in love. And you can't help but smile thinking of the future for them. And then they are just ripped apart because, the world thinks that Chuck is dead. I think one of the big hooks about this movie is that because the world thinks he's dead, Kelly eventually moves on with her life. He comes back 4 years later from the island. And that, I think, is the most heartbreaking part of this story. And I think that's just because they do such a great job building their relationship. That when they are literally ripped apart and you want them to be able to come back together, they can't because she's moved on. She's married, right? And she has a kid. This is one of those rare movies where it's not like cheating is involved. It's just two characters that one was thought to be dead, and then they come back, and you can't deny those feelings, that connection. There was no closure between the two of them. So it's so heartbreaking seeing them face to face and knowing that they cannot be together. And more than anything, they want to hold each other. I don't want to get all romantic and sentimental on you guys, but man, this movie makes me cry every time because you feel so bad for them. Chuck is a good guy though, and he knows that we can't do this. And I have to leave. And so by the end of the movie, it all comes full circle when he delivers all the packages that he has accumulated on the island. The one package that he refused to open has the angel wings on it. And he brings it back to what we see at the beginning of the movie. This woman, she was a welder and she was married to this guy. And then by the time he delivers the package to her, she's divorced. And so there's a crossroads literally there where he's like, okay, what do I do? Do I go down this road and maybe form a new connection? When I sat down, I didn't take any notes really for this movie. I mean, when I watched it, I always jot things down on my phone that just jump out at me. But I know that I still haven't looked at my phone one time. Because usually with movies like this, everything just kind of pours out of me. And I never know which direction I'm going to go. I don't know if I'm going to spend too much time on the story. But this is a 24-year-old movie. And I can't help but, talk you through the story. But pausing right there, let's talk about, I guess, the behind the scenes, like how Tom Hanks lost that weight. They shot the first part of the movie, and then Tom Hanks had to lose, I think, 50 pounds. They parted ways for a year, and Robert Zemekis went and shot What Lies Beneath. And so then a year later, Tom Hanks has lost all that weight, and then they shoot the rest of the movie on the island. Let's talk about the island. One thing I love about the island is it really forces a person to dig deep within and find things that they never considered that they had, the ability to survive. Chuck, he seems like a smart guy, resourceful. That's even on display, when he's figuring up the math. You can tell he's really good at math. He fails a lot trying to figure things out, like the coconut, and they show you that in real time. At first, he's like throwing the coconut, he's banging it on the rock, and then eventually he figures out how to properly get the coconut open, the most efficient way. That's just one example of a myriad of examples I think anybody would do if they really had the will to live. And the thing that keeps Chuck going is that watch that Kelly gives him. Every night he looks at that watch and he flicks the flashlight that barely has any power off and on so he can see her, just to remind him why he is continuing and trying to survive. And it's a beautiful moment that circles back around later in the movie when he is back on the mainland and he's sleeping on the floor next to the bed and he is flicking the flashlight on her still, even after he knows that she's moved on. But I like that this movie takes the time to show Chuck figuring things out. And then 4 years later, he is pretty much carved out of stone. He's a lot lighter. You can tell that he has become pretty much an expert at surviving. He's able to freaking harpoon fish from, 50 yards away. And he's just so bound and determined to survive. And, there's these moments where he feels like there's some help from above because he gets this, porta potty that's been like ripped in half, and he uses that as a sail to make one try to actually get out of there, hopefully to be rescued. One thing we have to talk about is Wilson. The volleyball, one of the packages that washed up on the shore was a volleyball. And he, in a fit of rage, puts his own blood on the volleyball, and then he figures out, I'm just going to turn this into a face. And I think Wilson is one of the biggest things that saved Chuck's life because it gave him someone to talk to.
The air got to it.
The air got to it!
We have to make rope again. Wilson, we're going to have to make a hell of a lot of rope.
As a matter of fact, behind the scenes, they were actually going to shoot some scenes where Wilson actually talks. But they thought, you know what, let's just keep this as grounded and realistic as possible. And I think that was a good idea. You don't really need Wilson to talk. You know that in his own mind, feels like Wilson is talking back at him. Or maybe he doesn't, who knows? And maybe that's part of the fun of the movie. But Wilson is Chuck's friend, and Wilson helps Chuck get through this. And the saddest moment in the movie is when Wilson falls off the raft and floats away, right when Chuck wakes up. And man, it's just heartbreaking. By the way, the score in this movie is so beautiful. When Chuck is on the island, you hardly ever hear the score. Matter of fact, you don't hear the score until he's actually leaving the island. That's it. And I think that was a strategic move because they wanted the music of the movie to pretty much be just natural, and the actual sound of the island and the waves and everything and the birds at night, just to really put you in Chuck's shoes and let you feel what he's feeling. That's all he hears and feels really is the sounds of nature. My God, Castaway is such a beautiful movie. This is definitely a Trapped on an Island. Again, one of my all-time favorite films. I could talk about it for another hour. Just the themes of this movie. When Chuck is talking to his friend who lost his wife, and he apologizes to him. He's like, I'm sorry I wasn't there. Even though he couldn't be there because he was on the island. But that just kind of shows you what a great guy Chuck was. And Tom Hanks' performance is beautiful. This was during a period where Tom Hanks, man, he could just do no wrong. Every movie he was putting out, the audience was flocking to the theaters just to see this guy perform. He was that amazing back then. He's still amazing, but I think this was during his heyday and when he was really hitting his stride, winning 2 Oscars. And Tom Hanks has stated that this is one of his favorite movies that he's done. And it's a very unique movie, and I think there's nothing like it still to this day. Castaway is so unique. And boy, is it a tearjerker. So anyway, guys, that is my review for Castaway. Thank you, Bronson Wright Wolf, for requesting this one. I always have a blast covering the movies that you request. Also, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day. And on Fridays, we do Free for Fridays. Follow me at Drumdums on my social. Support me on Patreon. Buy me a coffee. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Drumdum out.